Welcome everyone to our journal club for January 2024. Happy New Year. We have with us a really fantastic guest, Karen Litzy, doctor and brilliant physical therapist, and we're so happy to have her, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more if you would.
Well, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to join you and your great community for your journal club for this month. My name is Karen Litzy, and I am a physical therapist. I'm the owner of Karen Litzy Physical Therapy, which is a concierge cash-based practice located in New York City. And I'm also the host of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast. And I have a small mentoring group called the Strictly Business Blueprint. So I'm really happy to be here to talk about something that I can talk about all day. And that's how to establish and grow and market your practice here, specifically your vestibular practice. So a real fun kind of niche practice to work with. So if it's okay with you, we'll get going. We're good to go?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. So first is a quick overview. And I love that I actually found this great little picture on Canva of your vestibular system. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. So I'm really excited to go through kind of the 20,000 foot view. It's really not a 30,000 foot view. It's more like a 20,000 foot view of a vestibular practice. But if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'll leave my information the last slide so that you can email me, you can find me on my website or through social media. You can DM me. So if you have any questions, please do not be shy. I'm happy to answer them. I love to do it. So let's talk a little bit. We're going to go through what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about the importance of your brand. And in my opinion, I think that if you don't understand your brand, you're going to have a really hard time creating a business, and a long and successful business at that. The financial considerations of what you will need to start specifically a vestibular practice. Now, if maybe you are a physical therapist on this and you already own a practice, you still need to get more specific equipment for your vestibular wing of your practice. So just keep that in mind. Establishing yourself as the expert, which number one, if you're watching this and you're a physical therapist or an occupational therapist, you're already an expert. You know more than 99% of the general population when it comes to the musculoskeletal health of the body. Now, I'm assuming you're on this call because you are also really committed to being the best vestibular therapist you can be. So now your expertise has just gone up exponentially. So we're going to talk about how to establish yourself as the expert in your community. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to market your vestibular program, market your clinic. Okay, so let's start. The importance of your brand. Like I said, for me, your brand is everything. It's who you are. It's what you do. It's why you do it. It's why you're in your community. So why is knowing your brand important? And I put this little graphic on the side, finding your voice, because that's what your brand is. Your brand is your voice. If you're a solopreneur, you are the brand. It's you. Your voice matters. If you're an owner of a clinic with multiple therapists or owner of a clinic with multiple sites, it's still your clinic's brand, right? So you want to be cohesive. You want all of the people working within your clinic to believe in your brand. So what is your brand? And these are some things that you can write down. So hopefully you have a pen and paper. You don't have to do it now. Maybe you can do it later. But I want you to kind of answer some of these questions. So your brand is who you are. So who are you? If you're a solopreneur, who are you as a person and as an entrepreneur? If you're an owner of a clinic with several employees or multi-site clinic, who are you? What do you do? What makes you unique, right? So there's no way that every single clinic is the same, right? So my clinic is going to be very different from yours, and it's going to be different from the person who's 2 blocks away from me. So really drill down and think about what makes you unique. And maybe having a vestibular program within your clinic makes you unique. It makes you stand out from your competition. What's your value proposition? We're going to get to that later, so don't freak out when you see that. We're going to go through and exactly how to find that, how to present your personality. We're going to do that as well. And I think it's also important knowing that your brand is not your reputation. They are two different things. A lot of people think that the brand is your reputation, and it's not, right? Your brand is something that you have created in order to market and to reach your community and your customers. Your reputation is something that other people are putting onto you. You can choose to accept that, right? You can accept that reputation or not. But just know that they're not the same, right? The point of knowing your brand is so you can control the narrative around your business, not having someone else do it for you. Okay, so that's knowing your brand, finding your voice. And just remember, your voice is unique. And no matter who you are, where you live, I guarantee you, there is at least one person in your community who needs to hear your voice. So always keep that in mind, right? You want to be helping at least one person.
What makes someone, I have a question. Sorry, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So we think about something that makes you unique. What could that look like? Is that only about kind of how experienced I am or where I went to school for physical therapy? Or is that also about kind of who I connect with in the community as far as like I really want to serve people who are not able to leave their homes and who are geriatric or neurologic population, or kind of that feels like it could be a lot of different things.
It can be a lot of things. So for example, if I were to take my business of what really makes me unique, and it's getting less and less unique as years go by, but what really makes me unique is that I go to the home, right? So people don't have to travel. They don't have to leave their jobs. I once had a patient say to me, so nice to have someone come to me. He's like, he worked for like a fintech company. He's like, I have to manage people and money all day long. I can't leave my office for 2 hours in the middle of the day. So my uniqueness of going and seeing someone in his office made his life easier, right? So you can think about how your uniqueness may fill a gap or a hole, or how does it solve a problem that your ideal customer needs filled. Another thing that might make you unique is maybe you have the goggles, right? Not every clinic has the vestibular goggles. That makes you unique. So your uniqueness could be around the tech that you use. It could be how much time you spend with your patients. It can be, that part of your uniqueness could be that your clinic is known for being like really fun and you've put that out there, right? Part of your uniqueness could be that you really make great partnerships within your community and with physicians, and you're part of a care team, right? So you're right. There are tons of things that make you unique. That's why sitting down, so if you're a solopreneur, it's sitting down maybe with yourself and trying to think of things, or asking your patients, right? Yeah. Maybe you have the most amazing website and that makes you unique. Maybe you do tons of videos on YouTube, explainer videos and things like that. You write the best blog posts. Maybe you're a researcher and a clinician. Maybe you're a professor at a local university and a clinician. All of these things make you unique. So you want to think of things that are going to make you stand out in comparison to your competition or your colleagues. So I think, does that answer your question on the uniqueness?
Definitely. And I think part of it is then how that can be appealing to a certain person. So I think a good example popped to my head is I work in a smaller physical space, private practice. And sometimes you could say, oh, that could be a con because there's no room for like a big set of parallel bars or a really big equipment of some kind. But on the flip side, I've had several patients say, I've been to a larger clinic, and for me, because of my sensitivities to sound or light or, stimulus, or just like even having multiple people in the room, even if they're in a private off room, like they're like, you know what, this is like just better for me personally. And so I think just recognizing that there are different patients are going to have different needs. And yeah, like I think you're getting there, but like, you know, it's so exciting to me to think about how you can kind of try to hopefully appeal, you know, and connect with folks who, you know, you would serve best.
Exactly. Because, you know, in the end, the people who need you will find you. You just want to make sure you're putting out the right stuff, right? I mean, that's everything. And so then when you go to work, every time a patient comes in, they're the exact person you want to be treating, because that's what you're putting out there. That's your brand. And people are going to relate to that. Because it's true. Some people, like, maybe they don't. And I've had patients say this, I don't want to go to a busy clinic. There's too many people there, especially during COVID, post-COVID, right? Too many people, don't want to do it. Don't want to be around that many people. I need something quieter, right? I've had clinics that have therapy dogs. That's unique. And people loved it. They loved having the dogs there. You know what I mean? So you're going to get the right people, but that uniqueness is what brings people to you and what attracts the right people to you, to your brand. And we'll go into kind of how to figure that out with some questions later. So why is your brand important? So your brand is important, as we kind of just hit on a lot of these points. So it's influential in both marketing and the hiring process. So you want to hire the right people to your company. So with the right brand, you're going to attract the people who want to work by you, with you, and for you. It'll ground you in your values and your passions. So it may help decrease the probability of burnout for yourself and your employees. And we all know that burnout is a huge issue in healthcare and in physical therapy in particular, with over 30,000 physical therapists leaving the profession over the last couple of years. That's quite a lot. Differentiation. And what that means is differentiation between your local colleagues and yourself, right? So what makes you different? Trust and credibility, right? So we all know that, I probably heard this saying, that if people trust you and like you, they'll buy from you, right? So with the right brand and the right image, it may convey trust. It conveys credibility. And we'll go through how to get that trust and credibility in a little bit. And like I said before, it allows you to control the narrative about your company. And this is everything. You don't want other people putting false narratives onto you and your company, especially if you're a solopreneur, right? You want to make sure that you can control the narrative around your company, and you do that through really great brand strategy. All right, so branding, branding is huge. People go to school for this. They get doctoral degrees and master's degrees on this. So we're going to kind of break it down to its really easiest essential parts. So when you think about elements of your brand, it's your purpose, your personality, and your impact. And we're going to go through all three of those now, but keep this in mind: purpose, personality, impact. So we're going to start with your purpose. So how do people know what your purpose is? In my opinion, I think it's your mission, it's your vision, your values, which we're not going to go into now, but everybody has their values, and your purpose statement. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. So let's start out with a mission statement with our cute little guy that's feeling very dizzy here on the side. So what is a mission statement? So a mission statement is what your company offers right now, not what you offered 10 weeks ago, 10 months ago, or 10 years ago. And it's not what you plan on offering in the future. It's what your company does right now. Within that mission statement, it's who is your primary market? Who are the people you're trying to reach, right? So for this presentation, we're trying to reach people with vestibular problems, people who are dizzy, quote unquote. We just talked about how do you distinguish yourself from your competition. That's part of your mission statement. And why do you exist as a physical therapy clinic? What is the point of you, right? These are hard questions to answer. And so a mission and a vision statement, that's why big companies hire people and give them lots and lots of money to figure this out. And how do people who get paid lots and lots of money figure this out? They interview the people that work at the company. So if you're a company of one or two, you and that other employee, talk about, answer these questions. If you are a company of 30, if you have people who are, you have a CEO, a CFO, a COO, a CTO, your C-suite folks, ask these questions. If you have lead physical therapists or physical therapist supervisors or admins, ask them these questions and see what kind of answers you get. That will help to shape your mission statement. So does it take time? Yes. Should it take time? Absolutely. I think when I was kind of going through my mission statement, I must have gone through like 10 or 15 drafts, and it's just me, So it's something you really want to spend time on, and I'm going to say that again and again. I think it's so vitally important because if you don't know who you are and who your market is, what are you doing? You're wasting your time and you're wasting everyone else's time as well. So that's what a mission statement is. So what does it do? It tells people what your company does. Plain and simple. It highlights the customers you serve, right? So think about those questions in the last slide, and it tells the marketplace the value your company hopes to deliver now. Okay, so I really want to stress that mission statement is in the now. What are you doing currently to help your community? What is the problem you're trying to solve for the people in your community? So that is a mission statement. So I encourage you to go and answer these questions. And if you don't have your own practice yet, if you are a therapist working in a clinic, guess what? All of this can be a personal brand. So take out company, put in me. Take out what does your company do? What do I offer? Right? You can have a personal brand as well. So don't think just because you don't have a business, you don't have a brand, because you do. So keep all of that in mind. You can just change company to me, change, things to I. You get the idea, right? So do this even if you don't have a company. Okay, now let's move on to the vision statement. So what is a vision statement? So your vision statement is where your company will be in 5 years or more. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 15. And again, we have this fun, cute little, dizzy guy here. Your vision is also how you distinguish your company in the marketplace to be sought after by people in your community, and this includes your employees. So you'll see the vision statement is oftentimes a little more internal, right? It's really for the internal of your company to boost morale, right? It's aspirational. It highlights what you hope to achieve in the future, but it should be 100% aspirational. I mean, pie in the sky. And I have some examples of mission and vision statements in the next couple of slides. So you'll get to see the difference between that mission and vision. But your vision, go for it. Hopefully your vision isn't in 5 years, I hope that I'm still open. That's not a vision statement, or in 5 years, I hope that, I can start to see 5 more people a week. Not a vision statement. Okay, so you want to go big, okay? So I know, and sometimes it's hard for us to think that way, but you want to think big and you want to think aspirational.
And it sounds to me like both for the mission and the vision, something that's important is the idea that this is like a guiding force. So if I'm kind of make a decision, and maybe I'm kind of jumping ahead in your presentation, and I'm sorry if I am, but
no, it's perfect.
If I'm thinking, do I want to take dry needling? Is that something I want to add to my practice? You might say to yourself, well, what are the pros of that? Oh, well, some of my patients have a neck component to their issues with dizziness. Maybe it's not causing their dizziness, but it's a secondary issue where they start walking like Frankenstein and then they don't move their neck. And so I think that might help that group of people. So that would serve my ultimate goal of helping reduce dizziness and imbalance. But then on the flip side, you might say, oh, well, is that, going to kind of bring a different group of people in than what I'm really trying to focus on, because those people who are open to dry needling are maybe I don't know, I'm going to make it up, say younger, or, something else that maybe if your vision was to do geriatrics, then you're not fitting that. So am I on the right track here? Or am I...
No, that's 100%. Every time you have a question that is posed to your company, you should be able to go back to your mission, vision, and values. And does this align? right? So you have an opportunity to partner with someone in your community. Go back to your mission, vision, and values. Does this align with it? If it does, it's a fit. If it doesn't, it's a bless and release, right? It's a thank you and release. Thank you so much. It's just not the right time for me.
Right.
Something like that, right?
Perfect.
But yes, all the decisions that you make, you should have your mission, vision, and values in the front of your mind, not even in the back of your mind, right? And if you forgot what they are, go back and reread them again. And I think the other thing to remember here is both your mission and vision can change.
Yeah.
Circumstances change in life. So these are living, breathing documents. Your values may change, right? So just keep in mind, like, it's okay to change these, right? Where it's not like the 10 Commandments or anything. We didn't etch them in stone, So it's okay to change your vision, mission, and your values as you grow. Yeah. Even as you grow as a human being and as a person, things change. Like, I'm not the same as I was in my 20s. And my vision and values and mission has changed.
Sure.
Which makes total sense. But thanks for bringing that up because I did not have it in here. So
okay.
Okay. So what does your vision statement do? It provides provides a foundation for future planning. So yeah, we just talked about that. It attracts new employees, contractors, customers, partnerships, and it's inspirational, right? It should inspire your employees and it should inspire you. Okay, so let's look at some examples of mission and vision. So I took examples from two very large companies that everybody's heard of, that everybody's very, very familiar with. So the first company is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's mission is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So that mission statement is right now, right? This is what they want to do. They want to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. Sounds great, right? Mm-hmm. And when you think of LinkedIn, that's what they do. Their vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So can you see the difference? How the vision, that's huge, right? To create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Huge difference from connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. But you can see how that mission, if done correctly, it may lead to that vision, right? So one is practical. This is what we're doing as a company to help our customers. So their customers, the world's professionals. What they're doing, connecting. What they want to make them productive and successful, okay? And then the pie in the sky vision. The next example I have is from Nike. Who doesn't love Nike? I just watched Air. I know I'm late to the Air game, but it was amazing. And so when we look at the mission, so Nike's mission is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And they are of the opinion, if you have a body, you're an athlete. So that's their mission, right? Inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And I mean, I would say by all accounts, that's what they're doing. Now, their vision is we see a world where everybody is an athlete, united in the joy of movement. Driven by our passion for sport, our instinct for innovation, we aim to bring inspiration to every athlete in the world to make sport a daily habit. Much bigger, right? Much greater than to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. So their mission relates to their vision. It tumbles into their vision. But now they're saying, we are going to unite the world in the joy of movement, right? Now that is a bold statement, right? So again, hopefully you can see the difference between the mission and the vision. So just keep in mind, be bold, be big when it comes to your mission. And it doesn't matter if it sounds like unrealistic or unattainable, because here are arguably two of the largest companies in the world, and look at their vision statements. They're huge, right? Okay, so that's mission versus vision. Now let's go into your personality of your brand. So on the next slide, I have some questions. And again, you don't have to answer them now. You should take your time. Okay, so how to find your company personality. So I'm going to challenge you to answer the following questions to help determine this. And again, if you are a company of one, you can change it to you. If you are an employee, but you're doing your personal brand right now, substitute company for me or you. You get the idea. Okay, so first question. How do you see your company's character? If it's just you, how do you see your character? Right? So again, it can be just you answering. If you have people that work for you, get together as a group and ask them this question. What is your character? You know, it's easy to answer as a person, maybe a little easier, but even as a company, like, are you fun? Are you very serious? Are you smart? Right? Are you trustworthy? Are you personable? Do people like going to your clinic, or did they come in like, ugh, God, I can't believe I'm here again, right? What kind of an environment are you creating? So really dig deep and answer the question, how do you see your company's character? How do others see your traits? So literally ask your patients, friends, family, right? I remember I was watching a Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, and he had a comedian on, Bob Einstein, who was a writer for the Smothers Brothers, and he was in Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was Funkhauser in Curb Your Enthusiasm, for those people who watch. And they get in the car, and Bob Einstein says to Jerry Seinfeld, you know, you ever hear the saying, never get too big to stop using your friends and family? And he said to Jerry, I've never seen someone use their friends and family more than you. You know, so keep that in mind, right? It's okay to ask your friends and family how they see your clinic's traits or how they see your traits, because they are your patients. They know you best, right? And they're giving you an outsider's perspective into you or into your company. And then what makes you unique, right? So we talked about that before. We're going to talk about it again. What makes you unique? So answer these questions thoroughly, not just like one or two words, but think about it, answer it thoroughly, and then you'll start to see a picture of what your personality is like. Okay, next is your impact, right? So we talked about your personality. We talked about, your mission and vision and values. So now we're going to talk about your impact. So what does that even mean? How do we get the impact of our brand? Well, you measure it, right? We're physical therapists, occupational therapists. We're measuring things all day, right? So if you want to know your impact, you need to measure it. So these are just a couple of ways that you can measure it. One could be your reviews. So it could be in-house reviews, what people say to you face-to-face. It could be reviews on your website, Google, Yelp, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. Awards, right? A lot of people, I was talking to a physical therapist, a podiatrist in Canada last week, and we were working on, her media bio for her clinic. And I said, well, if you've won any award, you want to put that in there? She's like, oh yeah, we did just win Best Podiatry Clinic in 2023 for our area. I was like, and how did you forget that? Like, why? So what are your awards? Did you win an award from Chamber of Commerce, local media, from APTA, from PPS, from, other local community members, things like that? Oftentimes news stations and newspapers will have the best of, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how you can measure your impact. And by the way, all this becomes part of your marketing. Just so we're clear, everything we're talking about then rolls into your marketing. Patient outcomes. So are you benchmarking against your competitors? How many days in treatment do your patients spend? What is your NPS score, your net promoter score? Mm-hmm. So what a net promoter score is that's when it's very simple. You send to your patient, how was your experience on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being the best, most, exhilarating experience of my life. And then you average that out and that's your score. You kind of want to be 8 and above, right? Those 9 and 10s, they're your raving fans. If you get 1s and 2s, 3s and 4, actually anything under a 6, you want to reach out to that person to see what happened, right? So that's your net promoter score. Your KPIs are your key performance indicators. So, that might be any kind of clinical outcomes that you've had, how many patients improve, right? How many people don't improve? How many people drop off your schedule for no reason, right? So these are all things that you're going to be measuring on an ongoing basis. And finally, are you reaching your goals? So the first question I always ask is, are you setting goals? So have you set goals for your clinic, and are you reaching them consistently? That's another way you can judge your impact. Okay, and I'm sure there's many, many more. These are just 4 kind of ones that I think most people can kind of wrap their head around. Okay, so patient reviews, awards, patient outcomes, and goals. So that's how we would measure your impact. So what do you do with this information? Well, you put it into your marketing. You put it on your website, right? Like, we're so good at our job, like, especially for vestibular care, we can get, a lot of our patients get better in 1 to 2 treatments, right? Is that not like music to someone's ears? No pun intended.
I wish we could fix their ringing in their ears, but yes, I know. Yes, absolutely. And on top of that, I was going to ask if you think, and maybe it's something different, if you give like a community talk, or you're invited to speak somewhere, or you gain a certification, would you also kind of categorize some of those things under this block of impact?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So if you've, reached a certain level of certification, yeah, I would definitely put that in there. And impact on your community. How many talks have you given to your community? Right. So that can be, and that might be, maybe that's in your maybe that's in your goals, right? Or you're in your reviews. You gave it, like, reviews don't always have to just be from patients. Mm-hmm. Reviews can be, you went to the community center and you go there once a quarter and give a talk and people love it, right? You can ask for reviews of your talks too.
Yeah.
So you can put all of that in there. But yes, all of that all goes into your impact, and then it all then rolls over into your marketing. So everything that we're talking about here just continues to build. Okay, so that is your impact. Okay, so we talked about this earlier. I said, don't worry, we're going to get to it. So your purpose statement, otherwise known as your unique selling proposition, your unique value proposition, AKA, I like to say purpose statement. I think it's a little bit bolder. So when you're writing out your purpose statement, what do you stand for? Your purpose. What makes you unique? Your personality. So we just talked about how to get your purpose, how to get your personality, and what is the problem you're solving for your target audience. So you have to know who your target audience is, right? And very deeply. We're not going to go into all of that because that's like a 2-hour lecture in and of itself. But know that you have to know your audience. You have to know the problem you're solving for that audience. Okay? So what do you stand for? What makes you unique? What is the problem you're solving for your target audience? All of that goes into your purpose statement. And I have a template in the next slide that shows you exactly how to do that. So your purpose statement, I am, or we are for a clinic, and I help and we help so they can. Fill this in. That's all you got to do for your purpose statement. So I'll give you an example of something I wrote for myself, and then I'll just kind of riff on something specific to vestibular therapy. So for me, I said, I am Dr. Karen Litzy, a physical therapist and educator, and I help my clients in the broader community by using physical therapy as a tool so they can live a healthy, happy, and more meaningful life. Right? Very succinct, easy purpose statement. So now let's say, you're a vestibular clinic, right? So we are ABC Clinic, right? Comprised of physical therapists and occupational therapists. I'm just making that up. And we help let's see, what would be good? We help dizzy patients so they can maybe live a healthy, happy, and more meaningful life, or so they can live life without, live life straight. Something like that, right? So I would say within that purpose statement, you want to make it as free from PT jargon as possible. So oftentimes, and I help people with vestibular disorders, unless someone has gone to a doctor and has heard the term before, right? So that's why it might be better. And I help people living with dizziness, or I help dizzy people stand straight, right? So you can replace some of that jargon with more simple terms, not dumbed down, but more simplified terms that would be understood by everyone, right? So they can live their life and walk straight or something like that, right? So this is how simple a purpose statement is. So again, copy this down. I'm sure you'll get the slides. I am, write who you are. I help, write who you help. So they can. What is the problem you're solving? Okay. So I know it, like when people say unique selling proposition, but what is that? It sounds so scary. It's the easiest thing in the world, right? And you can use this as a template, but in order to do this, you have to do all that work before, right? So you can see how everything builds on everything else, and it's going to continue through the rest of the presentation here. Okay, so the financial considerations. So as we look at financial considerations, I am looking specifically at financial considerations for a vestibular clinic or a vestibular program within your clinic. Not necessarily the nuts to bolts of starting a clinic, because that can be more, right? Especially if you are going to be renting space, renovating, all that kind of stuff. That is really hard to say because there are people living in all different parts of the world. So for the purpose of this, we are just going to talk about the financial considerations one might have for a vestibular program. And thanks to Vestibular First, you guys made it really easy. Okay. So if you click on this QR code, it will take you directly to Vestibular First's page that has the basics of what you need for a vestibular program. So if you didn't know that before, now you do. And please note, it's not exhaustive by any means.
No.
But it gives you an idea of the cost of a vestibular program. Now, there are some things in here, like the high-low table, the parallel bars. Hey, maybe you don't have the room. Or if you're an existing clinic, maybe you already have it. So guess what? It's going to take the price tag down, right? The infrared video goggles, FYI, not as expensive as you may think they are. So if you have not looked into it, they're really not as expensive as you think they are. You may need a dedicated computer for those goggles, right? Instead of having, people carry around different computers and stuff like that. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, again, every individual clinic is different. The nice thing about at least the Vestibular First goggles is that they can be used with any computer that meets the specs. So there are some clinics who find it easier to have a dedicated computer, and other ones who hand the goggles off from clinician to clinician, and they each just plug them into their individual computers and go ahead and treat with that. So it's really about flexibility, and I think that's something that when I built the list that you're describing, I also tried to say, okay, yes, you could, get parallel bars, or you could have a setup where you are going to kind of have two mat tables near each other, and that's kind of your safety space. And so it's really about being creative about your situation. If you're a mobile PT, that's a whole nother ball of wax, yes, as far as what you might bring, right? And are you buying a Brock string, or do you build your own Brock string and things like that, right?
Right. And what I do, because I don't have parallel bars, so what I try and do is find like a narrow hallway.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't have to go very far. Or like I have one patient and we use his kitchen that has like one side here, and then on the other side there's an island, right? So they're right there.
Right.
Or I may be on one side with a wall on the other side. So when you're mobile, like, yeah, I don't have a high-low table. That's not happening, so you just have to figure things out. And a lot of this stuff on here, with the exception of maybe the goggles and the vestibular model, I guess. But some of the things, like my one patient just bought his own balance pad. They're like $40.
Right.
So they can do that at home. A step, cheap. They can get that at home. I put odds and ends training tools. So some of those, like the target, the bullseye target, things like you print that out for free.
Exactly.
Post-it notes, put that up. The black and white, the checker grid, print it out, right? And so for that, people just we do things, we tape them up in spaces where it makes sense. Yeah, so that's what I usually use. And some of the other, like the VizStim kit and things like that, you can take that with you. That's not huge.
Right.
I have the little, miner's
the headlamp with the laser on it. Yes.
The laser on it,
yes.
Which is, by the way, you don't only use it for vestibular patients. I use it for my neck patients.
All the time.
Chronic neck patients, all the time. Because sometimes with vestibular patients, ooh, boy, they don't like that. Right? I had a patient who was like, nope, not going to do it.
Yep.
He was just not feeling it. So I said, okay, that's fine. But even those, like that little lamp with the, like $15, I think, or $20 on.
Yeah. It fluctuates on Amazon, but it's at most I've ever seen it is 30. So again, it's like you kind of work with your list, watch your prices if you need to, but no, it's very flexible. And there's some items are on a wish list. Like I think that it could be fun to have blaze pods, but they're kind of on my
Agreed.
Save up for that maybe, or like if I were to get a grant, which I've known individual practitioners to get. I mean, you just never know. So just, it's okay to kind of just see like what's a must have, what's like a nice to have. And I tried to break it down a little bit on my opinions on the list to say like, these are things that you can consider and kind of think about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's like you'd be surprised at how much how much things can fluctuate. So again, snap the QR code, it'll take you right to the page and you can kind of look through and see what works. Like the other things, like I love like the shoe boxes. I do that. I just ask the patient, like, do you have a shoe box? Yeah, great. Perfect. So that when we're doing the walking testing, it just makes life a whole heck of a lot easier. So there are things out there that if you're a home physical therapist like myself, that you'd be surprised what people have in their homes. Let's just put it that way. You'd be very, very surprised.
Right.
And sometimes if you are doing some like eye tracking and things like that, I remember when I was at NYU for the course, they had the really fancy, tracking devices. And I was like,
sure.
Well, I guess I can use like a knife, like a butter knife or a spoon or something like that. Like you don't need everything, but it is, depending on how many patients you're seeing, nice to have. So you kind of have to look at like, what's your ROI, right? And we'll get into that with the goggles in a second. Okay. So how much can it cost? Maybe $4,000 to $7,000. Right. And the 4,000 is you got all the bells and whistles minus like the parallel bars. Right. And some of the other things on that list are like cardiovascular equipment. Like, we don't need all that. So, and again, this is sort of a vestibular program specifically. So how can you finance this? Have some options there. And I'm so happy you said apply for a grant, because people never think about applying for a grant, and you can. So credit cards. Now, the thing with the credit card is this: if you're putting this on your credit card, you better be paying it off every month. Do you want to carry those charges? That's very expensive. You get a loan from your bank, credit union, small business association, or family, friends. Like I said, we're never too big to use our family and friends. You can take a line of credit out from your bank. You just have to see like who's giving you the most favorable terms. Right? And how long do you think it's going to take you to pay this off? Right? You can get a really, really low rate loan or low rate line of credit That's better than putting it on your credit card. You know, you have a little more time to pay it off and you're not paying at 23, 24%, which is insane, right? And the last one I hear is apply for a grant. And I say this especially to women and to people of color. There are grants out there for female entrepreneurs and for people of color who are entrepreneurs, so many grants, right? You just have to write out why you need it. Most grant applications are really specific about the questions. There is a website called Hello Alice. And Hello Alice, if you sign up for their newsletter, they'll send you when grants are available. And you go on and you apply for a grant. I mean, why not? Like, why pay for something if you don't have to? So just kind of keep that in mind, right? So there are a lot of ways to finance. Don't think you just have to put it on a credit card. Explore all of these options. Find out where you're going to get the best terms. Because the whole point here is to save money, right? So if you are, you know, I can put it on a credit card and I know I'm going to pay it off next month, put it on a credit card. Get the points for your business, right? If you get cash back from your business, from your credit card, great, do that, right? As long as you know you're going to pay it off every month. If you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't have the cash flow yet, so I don't know if I'm going to pay it off every month, then maybe some of the other three options are going to be best for you. But again, very individualistic. So you just have to know your business, know how you're running, and know what your cash flow is like. And if your cash flow is good, great. I would do credit card. You know, get it, put it on, pay it off. Otherwise, take a look at these other three options, but always look for grants. You know, and oftentimes sometimes like credit cards like MasterCard, Visa, they have really great grant programs for entrepreneurs. Sometimes your local community, your local chamber of commerce, and again, the SBA sometimes has grants, or the SBA, you can get very favorable loans from the Small Business Association. So keep all of your options open, do your research, right? See what you can get that you don't have to pay for.
And I know you all could do this because you all got into college, you got scholarships, I have no doubt. So this is like just, I think it can be intimidating if you think of it as like, oh, I don't have a business degree, I don't know a lot about business, but you're smart and you know how to learn and you know how to read and you know how to interpret and there's guidance and there's help and you can email Karen. And I'm just saying, I feel like this is like one of my passions because I know the feelings and I understand. So,
and also don't count out the Small Business Association. The Small Business Association also has state chapters and local chapters. So, I mean, I'm in New York City. If you're near a large city, there's a Small Business Association in that city. And guess what? They offer a ton of stuff for free, including legal advice. So go to them. Go to your local chamber of commerce, right? You can get so many resources from there. So use those resources wisely. And you'll get some good counsel from them. Okay, so that's how you can finance. And again, costs are going to vary heavily. Okay, positioning yourself as the expert. Okay, so you've got your brand down. Now you have to get seen. You have to put yourself out there, right? So what does putting yourself out there look like? How can you be the expert? So like we said before, just as a physical therapist or occupational therapist, you're already an expert. You know more than a lot of other people. How can you be the expert in the vestibular space in your local community? You can write blog posts on your website. It works. Trust me, it really works. You write those blog posts on your website, it's going to shoot your SEO up, especially if they're SEO-friendly blog posts. How can you make them SEO friendly? Well, you can hire an SEO expert. You can use ChatGPT to ask them for SEO favorable words to put into your blog. So there's tons of ways that you can improve your search engine optimization through Google just by writing blog posts on your website. That blog post may get picked up. You're going to share that blog post on all your social media sites. It's going to get shared even more, right? So to be the expert, you have to put yourself out there. You have to put content out there. Otherwise, like last I checked, no one's coming and knocking on the door while you're sitting on your couch and being like, are you the expert? That's not how it works.
And I have heard that you can also increase your search engine optimization or SEO by linking. So, for example, I think Karen is awesome and she has a good follow. Oh, like I can have her as a guest blog post perhaps, or, so I'm going to ahead and say, oh, if you want to learn more, go to Karen's site. It's good for her because she's getting more exposure.
Yep.
And then, you are getting better SEO because she is well followed. And so I've definitely built relationships from the Vestibular First side, where, you're connecting in a positive way. This isn't about, well, you can affiliate and give me this money. It's not always about money. I guess indirectly it kind of is. But at the end of the day, it's really about relationships and about, if you're trying to connect, which, I think, at least in this space as clinicians, we all want to help. And we want to help patients and we want to help, education. So, think about your opportunities. Sorry, if you think that's right.
You're right. And you want to be creating these win-win relationships. It helps everybody, right? So that makes perfect sense. Okay, the next couple things are all about pitching. So you can pitch yourself to podcasts, right? Now, in some areas, there are local podcasts and people listen to these local podcasts. So search your area to see if you can get on some local podcasts. You can pitch yourself to, worldwide podcasts. Why not? Right? Because don't forget, people who like podcast hosts and producers, they need content.
Yes.
They depend on experts like you. I have a podcast. I know. I depend on experts, right? So I love it when people pitch their ideas to me. Some of them are great, and some of them, if we go back to our mission, vision, and values, they're not really aligning, so I have to decline. But pitch yourself to podcasts. Put yourself out there. And I'll talk about pitching very quickly once we get to the bottom of this slide.
But there are universities that have ones, I know, like local universities. There are like patient advocate groups and like, I guess support groups you would say, or like kind of like somebody who's built a podcast for patients. That can be a great way because then you're coming on offering your expertise. And usually they would like things to be explained in a clear way, that's kind of more patient facing.
Jargon.
Yes. So, okay, sorry, I get very excited about this. Good.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then what do? You then put it out on your social media. You tag your friends, you tag other people in the vestibular space. I'm sure Vestibular First would love to be tagged when there's podcasts, right? Like, tag them, right? Yeah. So you're just expanding your circle and you're giving people shout outs. Pitch yourself to your local newspapers and TV stations. Now, every time I say that, I'm like, well, my local paper is the New York Times. True. But there are also very hyper-local papers. So I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. There are 2 local papers just for people who live on the Upper West Side. So if I'm seeing people in their homes, don't I want to make my life easy and see people on the Upper West Side? Yeah, of course I do. So I'm going to pitch myself to my local Upper West Side papers. Now, some of these local smaller papers, they come out maybe once a week or once a month. Great, right? So not only can you pitch yourself to come on as an expert, right? Like what month is there like a vestibular awareness month?
Yes, September.
So, right? So you should be gearing up over this summer, and in August, beginning of August, you're pitching to your local newspapers and TV stations.
Yes.
To say, vestibular month is in September. I'm an expert in this field. I would love to, you could do a couple of things. If you're going to a local newspaper, you can find out who on that newspaper writes the health columns. Say, I would love to collaborate with XYZ journalist on a column about, vestibular awareness month, what that means, dizziness, vertigo. Everybody knows what vertigo is, right? Yeah. Or you can say, if they have some of these smaller papers have guest columns, say, I'd love to write a guest column, right? So those are two ways you can pitch yourself. If you're pitching yourself to a TV station, what you want to do is call them, or you can email and find out who the segment producer is. So you're not, unless you're friends with one of the news anchors, which is a great way to get on, by the way. So again, it's all about who you know. But you want to call and say, who's the segment producer? And can you talk to them? Can you email them? Right? If you're calling your local TV station, please don't call in the early morning when they're doing their morning show. And please don't call at the same exact time they're physically on the air doing the news, right? Don't call at that time. They will not take your call and they won't be happy. So when you call, you can ask for the segment producer and you can say, you're calling in August. You can say the month of September is Vestibular Awareness Month. I am an expert physical therapist. I am available to do an interview in studio, on site, meaning they can come to your clinic, they come to you, or remotely via Zoom, right? Since the pandemic, boy, it's made life a whole lot easier, right? So when you're going on to a TV station, remember, it's TV. So people can see you. So you need visuals, right? So maybe you take your iPhone or Samsung or Google phone, you put it on the best video setting and you video yourself, treating a patient, treating a friend, family, whoever will give you the permission, right? So, or you may have a video of yourself using the goggles or a video of the goggles. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Meta. A video of
I love it. I love the video of the video of the video. And
Yeah.
Of course you can use a fluid model to explain the vestibular system. It's
Exactly.
huge.
Yep.
Yes.
So if you're in studio, you can bring that model with you, right? Because all of this stuff, they're going to ask you, do you have B-roll? This is what B-roll is. So B-roll would be videos or pictures, or you could say, I have an object that I can bring with me. Right? TV stations love that stuff. So keep that in mind. That's another way to be the expert. Pitch yourself to online publications and magazines. Online publications, you can pitch them the week before, the day before, they may have the room. Because don't forget, most online publications need 365 days of content. You're doing them the favor. You're helping them, right? Sometimes I know as physical therapists, we can think, oh, I don't want to be too showy, or, oh, I don't know, am I bragging? No, you're helping them because they need content, right? Now, for a magazine, so if you want to pitch yourself to a print magazine, which I know are far and few between these days, right? But you want to be pitching at least 3 months ahead of time. So if Vestibular Awareness Month is September, in June, end of May, beginning of June, you want to be pitching because guess what? They're going to close that down for the month of June or for the month of September.
Right.
So at least 3 months ahead of time, you want to pitch a print magazine. Okay. So how do you do this with online publications and magazines? Who are you pitching to? The writers. How do you find them? You go online and you see who wrote it. And then you Google them. You go to LinkedIn, mentioned before, and then you see if they're on LinkedIn. If they're a journalist on LinkedIn, you could see who else they write for, right? So maybe they write for Oprah Online. They write for Women's Health Online. They write for the New York Times Online, right? So you can then, most of them will have websites. And when you go to these freelance, because a lot of people are freelance journalists, when you go to a freelance journalist website, guess what's on their website? Pitch me your story at this email here. And then you pitch them your story. Now, do you want to follow up? Yes. You want to follow up in about 3 days. Don't give it a week. Don't give it 2 weeks. Follow up in 3 days, and then you can follow up again a week later. Because it's all about the follow-up. Because don't forget, if they're a journalist, a freelance journalist, and they're writing for big outlets, they're getting lots of emails, right? So what do you put in the subject of your email? Story idea. Put it in brackets and then say for, vestibular injuries or vertigo, something the journalist is going to know, right? ways to cure vertigo. That might pique their interest, right? So keep that in mind. And then finally, like we said before, give lectures in your community. You'll be the expert because you may give a lecture at one gym and they might have loved it and they're going to recommend you to here. You gave a lecture to a senior group and they loved it. They're going to tell their friends and then their friends are going to want, then all of a sudden you're a speaker, right? And who knows what that can do.
Yeah, and don't limit yourself. I feel like people are like, oh, I'll go speak at this, senior center because they have a lot of vertigo. And that's not a wrong thing to do. But I have been shocked at the amount of referrals I've gotten because I actually speak on an entrepreneurial panel at Arcadia University once a year because the students love to hear about PTs that are doing, I don't want to say non-PT things, but either they own their own private practice as a PT or they're doing something else business-oriented. So obviously, like in my case, the medical device company. And I've had all these students tell their moms and grandmas and grandpas and uncles and to see me. Yep. I am not even making this up. I'm like, oh, I get all these patients. Like, that is an unexpected flow is what I'm saying. So,
True story.
Right?
And also, when if you're on podcasts, if you're in national magazines and online publications, I get a lot of patients I have patients that have been referred to me from all over the country.
Yeah.
And from like Australia and Europe and London, because they have someone that's coming to New York that's going to be here for sometimes it's a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple months.
Yes.
Right? So don't forget, you're putting yourself out there. Like I said, one person needs to hear what you have to say. And that can be your greatest ambassador. Like from being in Prevention Magazine, I had the office manager of a doctor's office call me. Like the coveted office manager. She's like, I read about you in Prevention Magazine and we're really looking to refer to physical therapists who do home care. Right? So you never know who's going to read it. But again, they're not going to come, like a journalist isn't going to knock on your door and say, I hear you do vestibular therapy. Can you come on? Can I write something? That's not how it works.
Right.
Right? And then I didn't put in here, but use social media. Right? Put yourself out there on social media. Start doing videos. Start making posts. Start sharing things from other people. Right? That's how you will be the expert. And people find you. And don't forget about LinkedIn. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say on that point.
I love it. I love it. And send other people. This works really well. We talked about building relationships, but I have no hesitancy. I've got a little list of like, I have a patient or a friend or whatnot, and they have a pelvic floor issue. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got 5 wonderful pelvic floor therapists that I know in this area where I work. And we have this nice reciprocal relationship where like we trust each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, whether it's another discipline or it's within physical therapy, I have had other vestibular therapists send to me. And I have gladly sent to others because like a patient definitely needs an evening slot. I don't do evenings. I only treat patients Tuesday, Thursday, 9 to 4. That's my availability. Right. You know what I'm saying? So you want to have that not work and you want to be supporting each other. And that will always come back to you. I'm just saying, like.
Always. Never fails. Okay. So this is how you can be the expert. And if you have more specific questions on pitching and things like that, you can email me. Okay. So let's get into marketing your practice. Now, if you've been listening to what we've been saying, hasn't everything that we've talked about already kind of rolled right into marketing? So the next couple slides are just ideas, right? And then we'll get a little more specific. So some marketing ideas. PR, that's what we just spoke about. PR is free earned media, meaning someone else is identifying you as the expert, right? So PR, right? I was on a call once and the woman said, PR is how you get seen. Marketing is how you get people through the door, and sales is how you make money. That's like a big, gigantic generalization, but you get the idea. You can offer 20 to 30 that should be minute after that. Just offer 20 or 30 a week. 20 or offer free 20 or 30 minute. Boy, that's a huge omission. Phone or Zoom consult. Sorry about that. I'll fix that. So when you get this, again, joining your local chamber of commerce, other business groups, like you said, you speak with other entrepreneurs in your area. Definitely do that. Look for local support groups, online support groups, as we mentioned before. You can try advertising in your local paper. Another thing that just came to mind, I mean, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, so maybe sponsoring a little league team, right? You would be shocked how many people may come into your door because your name is on their kids.
Yep.
Right? And we'll get to how many touch points it takes for someone to start calling you, right? I think it's called the rules of 7, sometimes 8. So if you're that caregiver for this child, guess what? You're seeing that all the time. You're going to games. Other people are going to games, right? And that is not a huge financial investment. So just keep that in mind, especially if you're in like a small town. Works really well. Reaching out to physicians, shadowing physicians. Now, one of the questions that we got ahead of time is someone who's a vestibular specialist, but lives in more of a remote area on an island, I believe. And the hospital system there is really, as we're seeing across the country, certainly here in New York, really keeping referrals in-house. They're not referring out of house. But the problem there is that hospital depends on travel PTs. So you don't know who you're getting. You may not have anyone that's an expert in vestibular care within the referral system of the hospital. So this therapist asks, what can I do? Well, I think in the beginning, as we talked about having a really clear brand is number one. So the way this person would differentiate themselves is saying, you know, we are experts in vestibular care. We are consistent. We have the same therapist. We are trained, right? We are not floating in and out a couple months at a time. Now, that's one way to kind of reach the general public, right? Have a really great website, and we'll get to that. Would be my other advice. We'll put a blog up every week that has vestibular in it. So when someone in that area searches for vestibular therapy on the island of where, I don't know where she lives, or he, but you know, let's say they're on Nantucket or they're on Martha's Vineyard or they're in the San Juan Islands or something like that. I can't think of any other like major islands. I don't know, maybe somewhere in Michigan or something, or Minnesota.
Hawaii. All right.
Hawaii. Yes, Hawaii. So, you know, make sure that when people Google vestibular care, your name pops up before the hospital. Because oftentimes they're going to the doctor because they Googled it. Right?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to the physicians, it is tricky. You know, you can ask to shadow them, you know, so that they're getting to know you and you're getting a relationship. If someone comes to you before they go to the doctor, refer to that doctor.
Yes.
And have the patient bring with them, like maybe you have a prescription pad or you have flyers or leave behinds or your business cards, so that that doctor knows like, oh, this is a specific vestibular therapist and they're referring to me. Right? Call them, send updates, ask to speak with them so you can talk about the patient. Call ahead of time and say, hey, I'm referring this patient to you guys. This is what I found. Right? So you have to make yourself indispensable to those physicians. And I know it's really hard, but I would say continue to focus on going directly to the patient and directly to the public. Have, as those people start coming to you, you refer to the doctors. Because I think they also said there's no ENTs on the island or anything like that.
Right.
Where they are. So listen, it's a tough situation. I'm not going to lie. But I think those like really focusing on your website, your SEO optimization, or that's redundant, your search engine optimization, and getting to know the doctor, referring to the doctor, calling the doctor, saying, I'm referring someone, have that doctor really get to know you.
Yeah.
You know, you don't take out for dinner or anything, but.
Right. I want to add something else with that. I think what you're saying is brilliant. I would say that I've also found it really helpful to try to offer, like I always hold a slot every day for an urgent vertigo patient. If patients know that they can get in quickly for vestibular issues in particular, and certainly positional vertigo, and very much in particular, those patients who would want to get into a hospital system, I have found, at least in the Philadelphia area, I don't know what it's like on that island, it's 2 weeks out or something like that, and they are not wanting to wait when they are throwing up and whatever. So I definitely try to get those patients in quickly. Once they become my patient and I know they have BPV, we work very hard to get them back in, like ASAP if they're having an episode, you know what I'm saying? Because almost always it is BPV, so I already know that's what I'm going to be dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So if you build those, not that I want people to get recurrent BPV, but unfortunately it does happen, right? And so if people know that that's something that you try hard to do, you will probably fill your day very quickly. And the other thing I would say is, in addition to all the really awesome ideas you have on here, and you have family and friends, I'm telling you, dentists, hairdressers.
The hairdressers are the best.
These are the people that put the patients into extension and they provoke dizziness in these patients. So, yes, you want to have relationships with people that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but are definitely encountering patients with vertigo, and could also be another helpful way to kind of point those patients in the right direction.
Yeah. And also, if you just notice, what you said is what makes you unique. We get people in same day, right? So you're not, versus the hospital that may have a 2-week wait time. So you're not disparaging the care, because there's one thing I hate, it's disparaging the care of another. I don't want to, if I see that on another PT's website, they're done. I don't even want to further, right? We're better than so-and-so because no, we are not in this profession to put each other down. Right. So but what you just said is hey, we get people in the same day versus waiting for 2 weeks. It's not anything against the therapist. It's just, it is what it is.
Correct.
Right. So what a huge unique value that is. Okay, so I would lay on, that would be all over my website. It'd be all over my marketing, because that is what makes you different. Guess what? There's more ideas. So I heard this the other day. You can have maybe a week out of the year or a month where you do reduced cost evaluation, donate the money to charity. So you donate it to a vestibular charity, right? So maybe you're saying $50 evaluations, up to a certain amount, right? You can't have you can't just toss a whole week out the door, but maybe you're doing 3 or 4 evals a week for an entire month, and all that money that people are giving you is going to charity, right? So it's a way. So you've got people in for the evaluation. Now they know you, love you, and they're more likely to stay. Or refer you to someone else. Introduce yourself to your neighbors, right? So if you're a brick and mortar, literally go out your door. Who is near you? Go in, talk to people, get to know your neighbors. Create a Google business profile. It used to be called Google My Business. It's now called Google Business Profile, and update it regularly. So on Google Business Profile, you can put a video up, you can put a short blog up, but definitely have this and update it, because it, again, increases the SEO value of your website because it's attached to your website, which goes into user-friendly, easy to follow, and for God's sakes, mobile-friendly website. People are looking at websites on their mobile devices more and more. So please have it optimized for mobile. Use your social media, depending on your ideal customer. Right? Maybe your customers aren't on social media, so that's okay. And reach out to local colleges, high schools, gyms, community centers to offer free lectures and screening, just like what you just said. We're on the same page here. All right? So those are just a lot of marketing ideas. But now, and then of course we have this, right? So you can create a leave behind. vestibular first, this is your leave behind, right? You can customize it with your company. It talks about all the it talks about the goggles and everything and what you guys do. And so again, this is what makes you unique. You have this technology, right? Now, if you don't want to use something that's already pre-made and very easy, you can go to Canva to create a leave behind. Mm-hmm. And I have the paid version of Canva. As a matter of fact, this whole presentation was done on Canva. And I have the paid version, but if you have the free version, same. You can hire an artist on Fiverr or any of those websites to create your marketing material, logo, etc. And again, you want to lean heavily on what makes your vestibular program different from other clinics in your area. And we just had a great example. We get people in fast, right? So that's what it should be. So if you have a leave behind is just a piece of paper or a trifold or something like that, or a postcard, and you get people in within 24 hours, that should be like the thing, right? So lean heavily into what differentiates you from your competitors. Okay, so now we need a strategy, right? So there's kind of 4 parts to this strategy. Number 1 is to know your patients. So you want to know the demographics, their preferences, their pain points. Who are these people, right? So in order to do that, you want to create a written narrative. Give the person a name, a job. What do they like to do? What do they like to read? What do they like to watch? Like I did this a couple of years ago and I said, oh, my ideal customer is a woman in her 30s and she has children and she has a major orthopedic problem and she loves to watch Oprah and The Real Housewives and she reads O Magazine and she's really into fashion and both her and her husband work. They have a dual, and I did this whole thing. And maybe like a month or 2 later, I get a call from a woman in her 30s who had a very terrible, like the unhappy triad of ACL injuries. She has 2 children who her and her husband work. We start talking. She loves Bravo. She watches The Real Housewives. It was literally like, and then
you manifested her.
Well, and then she became my biggest ambassador and has probably referred to me over $100,000 worth of business.
Yeah.
Right? And I saw her probably, how old are her kids? 14, probably well over a decade ago. She just referred someone to me 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And mine is my adorable patient that I saw for vertigo, and now she wants to see me for every body part, even though I tell her I'm really mostly trying to just do vestibular. And she talks about me apparently at every church group she goes to. And I mean, legitimately.
Yep. If you're unsure, like we said before, conduct surveys or interviews, right? Out to your community, talk to your current patients, know what problems they have and how you're going to fix it. And that's how you want to tailor your marketing strategy to that. If you don't know your patients, you don't know who you want to treat, then don't even bother having a marketing strategy. I know that's blunt, but it's true. If you don't know who you're here to serve, what are you even doing, right? Don't bother. Maybe you'll get lucky. Next, you want to harness the power of digital marketing. Of course, everything is digital. So again, the website, and then in the next slide, we'll go into a little bit more about website, leveraging your social media platforms. Again, that's how you're establishing yourself as the expert. And from that, maybe you want patients to go to your website. From your website, you want them to get on some sort of mailing list, right? Mm-hmm. So social media is great, digital marketing is great, but we want to get them off of that and onto your mailing list. Because once they're there, if Instagram shuts down tomorrow, you have a mailing list, right? If X shuts down, or Twitter, whatever it's called, which it's very likely may, you have a mailing list, right? And in this digital marketing, right? So this can be your blog posts, it could be stuff on social media. You want to be sharing your expertise. And again, implement a robust SEO strategy to enhance your online visibility. If you don't know how to do that, there are plenty of people in this world who can help you with that. Or you can just probably Google it and figure out if you don't have the funds to hire someone, you can Google it and figure out what you can do on your own. Okay, so we said how important your website is. So there's a couple of things that you want to look at on your website. And I always like to tell people, take these 5 categories and give them a number from 1 to 5. 1 means it's awful, and 5 means like you're hitting the mark. So your number 1 is your context. So where are your visitors coming from? Does the message and content match the expectations of the visitors? So if your visitors are coming from Google and they are looking for a physical therapist that specializes in vestibular patients, they go onto your website. Above the fold, which means they don't have to scroll down at all, it should say you're a physical therapist that specializes in treating vestibular symptoms. I should not, if I have to scroll down to find out what you do, it's not there, right? So you give yourself a 1. If you go on and all that is there, excellent. Clarity. Is it clear what the website is about? Like I was on a website, a physical therapy website. I knew it was, but if I didn't, I would be like, I have no idea what this person does.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even mentioned anywhere. It's like, how is this even possible? Right? So it should be, most of the stuff should be above the fold. What should also be above the fold is how can they get in touch with you? Mm-hmm. So maybe it's contact us should be above the fold. Book now should be above the fold. Where is your focus? So how many distractors are there? So that's where like, if you have like a million pop-ups, nope. Let's not have that because people don't like pop-ups, right? You can have 1, but you don't want a whole bunch, right? So you don't want to start scrolling and then have a pop-up of like, sign up for my newsletter. No, right? You want to have the least amount of distractions as possible. Do all the words on your webpage encourage conversion? So that may be, are you answering frequently asked questions, right? Is that there? Do you have, are you ready to start physical therapy? Click here, right? Ready to start, something like that.
Call to action. Call to action.
Call to action. And then credibility. Are there ample reasons to believe you can deliver? This is your testimonials, right? If you have no testimonials, people are going to be like, ooh, I don't know, right? So credibility is testimonials. It's those little, badges that are on the bottom, like if you're certified in something, right, that are on your website. It's what PR have you gotten? That's your credibility, right? Do you have a PR page? Like, you know how people say like as seen in, and it'll be all these media outlets? That counts. People look for that. So I want you to think about these 5 things: context, clarity, attention, congruence, and credibility. If you have a website, go on it, give yourself an honest appraisal of 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. And where you have a disconnect, think about ways in which you can fix that.
I had a patient bring me a printout. I had a patient bring me a printout of my bio and be like, I knew you were good enough because I printed this out and read it through and it's right.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. The bio is one of the most read things on a website, right? So make sure you have a good bio, and please make the bio tell a story. That's a whole other thing. But please make the bio tell a story. Like no one wants to be like graduated from in start here. No, like talk about why you became a physical therapist. Why do you love helping people with vestibular problems? Like I work with a lot of chronic pain patients because I have chronic neck pain. So I put that in my bio and people are like, oh my God, I totally relate. I'm coming to you because I know you know what it's like.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you suffer from vertigo when you were young. Don't be afraid to get personal. It's your bio. It can be personal.
Right.
And people look at that. Okay. Next is strengthening relationships with your referral networks, which we talked about, I think, at length. So you want to cultivate relationships with physicians, trainers, other healthcare professionals, people in your community. Provide educational materials, personalize updates on shared patients with those referrals. Build a network that reinforces your credibility and expands your reach, right? So it's all about relationships. It's all about partnerships, right? And we don't want to say, like, I hate just saying referral. They're a referral because it's so like stale. So I'd rather say partners, relationships.
Yeah.
It's so much more personal. So that should be part of your marketing strategy. So you can see there's not one strategy that's the winner. Now, once you start measuring, there might be, but right off the bat, we don't know. Hence, starting to, we talked about impact, right? So that's part of your marketing strategy. So what are the tools you're using to see the performance of your marketing efforts or your KPIs? What are they? You want to regularly review your metrics. So how much does it cost for you to get a patient? What are your conversion rates? Your conversion rate is how many people you talk to do you convert into a patient? And what is the ROI on your efforts? So if you're spending money on advertising, is that coming back to you? Are you exceeding the money you're spending? Or are you spending more than you're bringing in? And you want to kind of take a look at this about every six to 8 months, I'd say. Like 3 months is not enough time,
right,
to see if it's working, right? So every 6 to 8 months, you want to kind of revisit some of these and see what's happening. And finally, you want to stay agile. Like, please don't be married to something. We're not married to a marketing strategy, right? You want to be able to say, this isn't working. It shouldn't hurt your feelings. It just didn't work, right? So don't get upset. Don't be married to it. Be agile, be able to move, and be able to change as the market changes. Okay, so this is how marketing works. You've got strangers, meaning someone Googled. Visitors, they went to your website, they went to your social media. They signed up for something, they called you. They emailed you, that's a lead. Then they become a patient. And then they, of course, absolutely love you, can't stop talking about you. They're raving fans, right? So this is it's easier. Like when people think funnels, it's like, oh my God, it sounds so hard. This is it. Strangers become visitors, become leads, become patients, become fans, okay? So let's say you want to acquire, this is just a quick example. You want to acquire 10 new vestibular patients per month. Okay. That's a great goal. You already know from your leads that your average conversion rate is 5 out of every 10 leads. So out of every 10 people that you return an email to or a call to, 5 of those people become your patients. I just made the math easy here. So how many leads do you need to get 10 patients? 20. Right? So if every 5 people every 10 speak, 5 become your patients, you need 20 leads per month to get 10 new patients, which means you need 20 people to call or email you or reach out to you in some way and leave their contact information with you to get back to them. Okay? So how many visitors do you need to get that many leads? The average visitor to lead is 5%. 3 to 5%. I'm being generous, right? So you need 400 visitors to your content in order to get those 20 leads, to get 10 new patients every month, right? So you could see it's like exponentially more. So where are you getting those 400 visitors? Word of mouth, doctors, your website, your social media, your earned media, your PR, right? So it kind of gives you, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a taste of how much it takes to get those 10 new patients through your door every month. And then the strangers to visitors rule is this marketing rule of 7. So strangers need at least 7 touch points before they'll become a visitor, right? So they may look at your content on social media 7 to 10 times, and then they'll say, oh, I'm going to take a look at the website, right? You may be writing a column in your local newspaper. It may take 7 columns before they're like, oh, I'm going to give them a call, right? So just keep that in mind. So if you think about it, then strangers to videos can become like really big, right? Or strangers to visitors. So again, strangers, visitors, leads, patients, fans. Okay. And in order to know how many visitors you need, you have to know what your conversion rate is. And that's super easy. How many people called you? How many people became visitors? If your conversion rate is 100%, guess what? You need 10 people. Cool. Awesome. Because then you don't need 400 visitors. You need 200 visitors. Right? So you can see it goes down and down. So the better you get at speaking to your patients on the phone or returning emails in order to convert them, the less visitors you need to turn into leads. Just makes your life a little easier. So hopefully that's clear. Is that clear?
It's very clear. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome
All right.
job.
Good. Okay. So here are some resources that I really like. They're just a few. I have to say, I kind of live and die by Profit First, but Mike Michalowicz. So the website's amazing, lots of free tools. The book is great. You don't have to do it exactly the way he said. You could do Profit First-ish. But man, does it make a difference in your cash flow and in your, just the capacity of your business. And then Traction is really great. I'm in the PPS, which is the private practice section, or APTA private practice. And I am in peer-to-peer, which breaks you up into small groups. And we meet every month. And as a group, we're going through the book Traction, which is actually quite helpful. Start with Why by Simon Sinek, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and Be Seen by Jen Gottlieb. Be Seen just came out, and that's all about, you guessed it, PR and how to be seen, right? So continuing education, obviously Vestibular First, Concussion Corner, which I know is one of Vestibular First partners, MedBridge. Yes. Those are, because if you have a vestibular practice, guess what? You better be good at being a vestibular therapist, right? So don't forget, like, the business side is one thing, but if you're not good at it, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
And then continuing education, APTA private practice, shameless plug. The last one is mine. So if people want more information, I'm happy to give it. Websites and newsletters. So you guys, there are some really great newsletters out there. One is Selena Sue. She was a mentor of mine. She is in the PR space. She's great. Justin Welsh. I found him on Twitter. Amazing, once a week, comes out every Saturday. His newsletters are really great for those solopreneurs, because we know not everyone has a gigantic business. Of course, Mike Michalowicz, I just said, and 10KSB. So Goldman Sachs has a program called the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. I went through it a couple of years ago. It's basically an accelerated mini MBA for free. And it is, yes, that's right. You should be applying for it, by the way.
Noted.
Yes. And there's one in Philadelphia. So they're all over the country now. It started here in New York. I was cohort 33. They're all over the country. It's about 2.5 months, but it is like, you need to put in the time. Like, I was probably putting in 15 to 20 hours a week, just between the homework and, I also did mine over COVID. So everything was online. But what came out of that, I have an entrepreneurial group of 6 amazing women that I meet with every month, and they have really helped to improve my business. So the website's newsletters part, that's strictly business. That's all business stuff, right? But if you have a physical therapy business and you're like, man, I really wish I had a lot more business acumen, go to 10ksbapply.com and apply. It's probably going to be, there's probably one now in your area. And it's also like the gift that keeps on giving, because they have a conference every 2 years. They have webinars every month. They have meetups, get-togethers, and you can find your people within your own group. So if you have not heard of that, just Google it or go to that website. And with that, we are done. And again, if anyone has any questions, you can DM me on Instagram. My email is there. My website is there. You can click that QR code and that'll take you to my site. So that's it.
Yay. That was amazing. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I can say. I love learning things. I definitely learn things. There's no question anyone who watches this will learn things. And so I'm just really grateful because I know this is an area where, sometimes folks struggle. So.
Yeah. And, I was one of them until the Goldman Sachs situation came along. So, and also like 15 years of running a business will do that to you. But I just want to thank you so much for having me. And like I said, I'm happy to connect with people. So just reach out if you have any further questions.
Perfect. Absolutely. So we'll cap this off because I know, as usual, we are over the hour because there's always so much great things to talk about on this journal club. But thank you for sticking with us, and we look forward to seeing you next month. And just an extra special thank you to our guest tonight. You really did a fantastic job, and I know a lot of people will benefit. So thank you, and everyone take care. We'll see you next month.